Good morning and welcome. Today's webinar topic is titled Intro to Google Analytics. If you just joined us, we're asking everyone to rate themselves in the chat box from 1 to 5, 1 being beginner, 5 being an expert. What is your experience with analytics? If you don't mind dropping that in the chat box, that would be great. We are excited to jump into this topic today as it relates to nearly everything we do on a daily basis when it comes to marketing and digital engagement. Our speaker today is Josh Koshorik, Director of Marketing at 5Q Injurnity. On any given day, you can find Josh working in Google Analytics. He has helped several nonprofit leaders navigate Google Analytics, and today he's going to share key reports and tips for driving success with the data available to you in Google Analytics. Josh is excited about this topic because it's a critical component to any campaign. If you're not tracking the results, you're not doing as well as you could be, and you could be missing huge opportunities. One interesting fact is that Josh has been using Google Analytics before it was Google Analytics, before Google bought it. So he is experienced, he has a wisdom to share with us today, and we are just excited to learn from him. And so before we get started, a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, this webinar will be recorded, so sit back, enjoy, and watch it. And if you miss anything now, don't worry. We'll make sure and get you the recording here as a follow-up, and so you can go back and view this information later. Second of all, we'd love to take your questions today. There's a lot of questions around analytics and how to interpret data and how to not be overwhelmed in it. So please put your questions in the chat box, or you can send them directly to myself and Josh in the Q&A box. There will be time at the end to answer all the questions, so we encourage you to throw them at us as they come, and just know that we will go ahead and get to those at the end. So with that, let's jump in. Josh, take it away.
So much, Chelsea. I'm very excited to cover this topic. Like you said, I'm always in Google Analytics, and I believe it's really a key component to making your marketing campaigns and marketing efforts as successful as they possibly can be. I'm excited to see all the information that people have been dropping in the chat box. You guys are all in the right spot. We're going to really cover just the fundamental elements of Google Analytics and where you can get the most bang for your time. So we'll jump in. What you'll learn is what are the advanced settings that you have to configure, and I call them advanced settings, and that's simply because you have to configure them. Google doesn't track these things out of the box, but they're really easy to implement, so don't panic there. Also, the key reports, as well as how to easily spot trends, even if you hate math. That's one of the common things I hear. People say, oh, I'm not a data person, I'm not a numbers guy. You don't have to be to get a lot of value out of Google Analytics. Since we do have a lot of beginners, I'm just going to cover real quickly what Google Analytics is. Google Analytics is a data platform that tracks what's going on your website. It can track how you acquired users, which channels they're coming from, which sites are referring your traffic. It can track how long people spend on your site, what country they come from, all the way down to what region they come from, as well as the devices that they're using, and so much more. There's literally hundreds of reports available. And if you're just seeing these charts and you feel your blood pressure rising and you're starting to hyperventilate, stick with me. I'm going to boil this down to just the key areas that you need to know. Really, it's like anything else. 80% of the value comes out of 20% of the reports. So we're going to narrow it down for you today and make it really easy. The first thing that we're going to cover is just the advanced features that you should configure. They're a must for marketers, in my opinion. And there's 5 of them. And the nice thing about these is all of them, with the exception of the UTM parameters, are one-time setups. So you set them up and then you never have to worry about them again. That data will just populate. So we'll start with the e-commerce tracking. And this one is all about revenue. So your donations, they call it e-commerce tracking because Google Analytics was initially set up for e-commerce websites. But in most cases for nonprofits, that'll be donations. If you're in the educational space, it could be paying for online classes or Some nonprofits also have products that you can purchase and that type of thing. This will cover all of it, and you'll see that the revenue populates through. It's really important because, as we all know in the nonprofit space, not all donations are created equal. And you can see in this example here, this channel generated 639 transactions or donations for almost $200,000. This channel created significantly more donations, but only $15,000. If you didn't have the revenue component there, you wouldn't know which one was driving more revenue for your organization. And these channels are separated into, for example, it could be email or Facebook or that type of thing. Next is conversion tracking. This is very similar to the e-commerce component. The e-commerce component will actually require a developer, so that makes it a little easier on you. Hopefully, you can just send the documents to your developer, and they'll set it up very quickly for you. The conversion tracking oftentimes is something that you can configure yourself within the admin of your Google Analytics account. And this would include any kind of non-revenue associated goals that you're trying to track. So this might be if somebody downloaded a resource, such as a guide or a PDF. It could be if they registered for a webinar like you guys did today. Or it could be volunteer signups, contact requests, those types of things. Any metric really that you're looking to track that will add value to your organization that you're wanting to achieve, you can track here. And this is typically just a matter of logging into Google, going to the admin, clicking one of these pre-configured templates that Google has, and filling out the form. So you'll be able to do that really easy. It sounds challenging, but it's very easy, and you'll be able to do that quickly. The UTM tracking parameters is one. This one is an ongoing. Any campaign that you have, you'll want to add these tracking parameters to. And what that does is that actually associates your marketing to the results that you'll see in Google Analytics. Google has this campaign builder. If you just search Google Campaign Builder or Campaign URL Builder, this page will come up, and they make it really easy to fill out the form. The first is the landing page where you want your ads directed to. And you just paste that into the box. Then you have the campaign source. This is the only required parameter here. And that would be associated to what site you're promoting on. Google, Facebook, whether it's an email newsletter or a Journey campaign, if you're using our Journey personalization tool. And then I also recommend at a minimum adding a medium. The medium is the type of campaign it is. So if you're sending it by email, or if you're running a banner ad, or if you're doing a cost per click campaign, any of those you would put in there. So the source is where the ad's being run, whether that's a website or an email or a text. And then the medium is the type of ad it is, whether it's banner ad, email, that type of thing. Additionally, they have these fields down here: campaign name, campaign term. If you want to add those are good to add. At this point, because we're keeping it simple, I'm not going to call it a requirement. But if you want to later on look at how your email is performing and see that it's performing well, and then you want to look at specific campaigns to see which campaigns drove the most results, you'll want to have the campaign name at least in the URL. And so once you fill out this form, Google will present you with this URL, which you can see is your landing page, plus the source and the medium. And everything after this question mark is the parameters. So the user themselves will see the exact same page, but what these parameters will do is they'll allow Google Analytics to understand which campaign they're associated with. And you've probably seen them yourselves, but not noticed. So next time you click on a link or click on an ad, you can go ahead and actually look at your browser and see that those parameters are in there most likely. The next one is custom segments. And this one is a little bit more involved, but it's really just filling out a form. And what this allows you to do is this allows you to look specifically at the segments that are most important to you. So if you're trying to gain new users, you can actually set up a segment for new users and see how new users compare to all of the traffic on your website. Or another example is mobile versus desktop users. Mobile's a big part of the conversation these days. We're seeing great increases in mobile traffic, so you probably want to watch that. But the number of mobile users varies greatly from nonprofit to nonprofit. Some I've seen have over 90% of their traffic come from mobile phones, while others may be all the way down to 15% or less. So being able to know those types of things really gives you a plan for how to develop going forward. And then the last one is more of a bonus tip to save you time, and it's linking your ads account to your Google Analytics. If you missed our previous webinar on the Google Ads grant, you might want to go back and check that out. But one of the requirements of the ads grant is to have conversion tracking set up. Sorry about that. One of the requirements of the Google Ads grant is to have conversion tracking set up within your Google Ads account. Since you're going through the effort in Google Analytics, you can just link that and the Ads grant account will read your conversions for you. So it saves you the configuration on that end. The next section that we're going to cover is the key reports that will tell you exactly how well your campaigns are performing. And this is, like I said, 80% of your value is going to come from these three reports here. So we're going to cover the source medium, the attribution modeling, and the funnel visualization. And these are kind of data jargon, so they might sound intimidating, but once you actually look at them, you'll find that they're very easy to read. The first is a source medium report, and this allows you to actually view the results when you add those tracking parameters. So you'll be able to view the results of your campaigns. You'll be able to see how Facebook is performing, how much revenue it's driving, how many conversions it's driving compared to your email list or organic search or your ads grant campaigns. And you'll be able to organize that by channel or your source, so Facebook versus Twitter versus Google, as well as your campaign type, which would be cost per click, email, as we discussed. And then if you did add the additional dimensions, such as the campaigns or the keywords, you'll also be able to drill down and compare specific campaigns or specific terms if you want to dig even deeper. The attribution model comparison, this allows you to see some benefit that's not necessarily visible at first. So I recommend going in here and playing with this, and they have preset models that you can just compare and see the results for. By default, Google attributes conversions to the last interaction. So if I come to your site by Facebook, and then later I'm searching around and I come to your site by Google organic search results, and then later I receive an email from you and I decide to make a donation, by default, Google will say that donation came from email, even though your social media efforts and your organic SEO rankings both contributed. So I recommend looking at least at the last interaction versus the position-based. The position-based gives some credit to the very first channel that sent the visits, as well as the last channel. So you'll be able to see you'll be able to see which channel is putting in the highest quality leads in the top of your conversion funnel. And it's really good to look at, because similar to the e-commerce tracking, where you can see that not all donations are the same, but you'll be able to see that some channels that when you're looking at their conversions don't look like they're doing very well. But when you look at position-based, you're seeing that they're actually initiating the relationship that leads to the conversion. So I found several times working with clients that they see maybe their social media channel isn't producing that many conversions, and so they stop advertising on that channel, and then all of the rest of their channels stop seeing conversions. They drop significantly. That's because they didn't look at the position base, and they didn't see that even though social media wasn't providing that last interaction, it was providing really high quality leads on the front end. So it's good to look at both models and get an idea as to what's going on there. The last one here is the funnel visualization. And this is where you can get into improving your conversion rates. So if you have several steps for people to make a donation, where they have to put in their amount, and then they have to go to another form and check which section of the ministry they want to donate to, and then go to another form and put in their credit card information. What you do is you actually just go through creating a donation, and at each page that opens up, you put the URL in this form, and Google will track that as a conversion funnel for you and give you a nice report that shows, hey, a lot of people are maybe they're adding their information and then they're not sure which portion of the ministry to check. So they're getting stuck there and not going past that stage. By fixing that form or testing that section of the form, you'll be able to greatly increase the number of donations you get through the funnel. All right, moving on to how to easily spot trends, even if you hate math. Like I said, I think this is possibly the most important section, because if you're not using Google Analytics, you're really leaving a lot of money on the table, and a lot of volunteers on the table, or new email subscribers, those types of things. And I talk to so many people that say, yeah, we've got Google Analytics, we're excited about it, but we're a little overwhelmed, and so we never actually look at it. If you're not in the data, then you're not going to be able to take action. So the first step here is to look for big changes. And you can see, you have this blue line that's pretty steady, and then you have this orange line that shoots way up in October and December and February. That's a great indicator that you're probably running an additional campaign during that time, or something along those lines, where you'll want to look into that and see what's causing the big change there. And a bonus tip for this section actually is that Google has automated alerts. So you can log in and say, I want to be notified if there's more than a 40% change in my site traffic, or I want to be notified if there's more than a 40% change in my organic search traffic. Then once you set up that rule, Google will actually send you an email alert whenever that rule is met. So you actually can spend about 20 minutes setting up several alerts for your key areas that you're wanting to watch. And then you don't even have to look for these big changes, because Google will notify you automatically. The next one is to look for inconsistency. You can see from this chart that this is comparing the dark blue line of users to the light blue of goal completions. And at the start, you can see as the users climb, so do the goal completions. But over here in April, the number of users stays fairly steady, where the goal completions drop off almost completely. So that's anywhere where there's inconsistency and you would expect the goal completions to remain steady with the traffic is a great place to take a deeper look. In this example, it may be that you change something on the website, so the conversion tracking is not working anymore, and it's not really that big of a problem. You can just fix the conversion tracking. On the other hand, it could be that you change something on the website and now people aren't able to check out, which would be a very big problem if they're not able to donate or they're not able to fill out your volunteer forms. So seeing these inconsistencies gives you a direct line into where you might find problems and where there are trends that you need to look into further. The last segment here is to really just talk about KPIs, which stands for Key Performance Indicators. Set your key performance indicators is that you want them to align with your organizational goals. So what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's create awareness, get new email subscribers, get new volunteers, recruit donors, any of those, you want to make sure the data points that you pick are representative of those goals. And these can be different for different campaigns. So maybe you have a campaign to grow your email list. Well, you wouldn't necessarily put donations as your KPI for that campaign, because the goal is to get new email subscribers. So you can use different KPIs for different campaigns. You want to make sure that the data you use is easily available, so you don't have to go digging it around for it. You don't have to manually compile it. The harder it is, the less likely you are to look at it. And it needs to be meaningful, so it needs to be representative of the results that you're hoping for, and it must have context. So a lot of the reports that we looked at today were just numbers because they didn't have actual context around what the numbers represented or how they played into the performance results. So you want to make sure you get the full data set so that you have the full picture of what the KPIs mean. And a pro tip here is you can actually create custom reports and custom dashboards within Google Analytics, so that when you open it up, Google Analytics, you're presented with the most important data right in front of you. And then on this side here are just some examples of common KPIs, which are CPA, which stands for cost per acquisition. In most cases with nonprofits, that's how much it costs you to get somebody to donate. And knowing this is important, as well as having the context of how much your average donation is online. If it costs you $50 to get somebody to donate and the average donation is only $25, that's not a great return, obviously. But if your average donation is $500 and it costs you $25 to get someone to donate, then that campaign is performing pretty well and getting you some good results. You can also track new users if you're looking for creating awareness and growth. You can also look at returning users for donor and volunteer retention purposes, and then any kind of engagement, which could be email subscribes, resource downloads, event registrations, petitions, signatures, really any kind of engagement that you're looking to improve upon. So those are the main areas that I highly recommend you look at. If you're still feeling a little overwhelmed because we covered quite a bit of ground and you have to only choose one, I would highly recommend that you configure the e-commerce tracking from the configurations report, because tracking that revenue is very important to keeping your organization running and providing the services that you do provide. And then the next is to get familiar with the source medium report. If you just have to pick one of those three, that one is going to give you the most actionable information.
Okay, thank you, Josh. We do have quite a few questions for you, so we're going to jump right into them. First question comes from Don. Any chance you could back up a step and point out where all of this is found? on our own website. Josh, I know that might be challenging given the slides and being thoughtful of the data that we have. And so can you just explain how someone would find this if they were pulling up their Google Analytics?
Yes, absolutely. So the source medium report is, if you have Google Analytics open right now, you can actually go to acquisition on the left-hand side, and then you'll see source medium as an option, and then all traffic, or maybe it might be all traffic and then source medium, but it's one of those two, and that will open up that report for you exactly. If you are looking for the funnel visualization, that is under that's under goals and then funnel visualization. If you want to set up goals, on the right, you'll go all the way down to admin, and then you'll be presented with a couple columns. The third column, so all the way over on the right, will show goals as an option. You'll click goals and click create new. And then as you create the goal, at the bottom of that form, there'll be an option to enable the funnel visualization, and that's where you'll do the configuration of that. Did that cover all the ones you were looking for?
Don, if you don't mind, just drop in another comment in the chat box or to myself or Josh directly. That would be great, and we can make sure that we answered your question. Another thought is, if you have any questions when it comes to finding reports, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help walk through how you find those reports. Another question for you, Josh, this comes from Taylor. On the UTM tracking, is it required in order for it to track correctly to use the URL codes or URLs that Google generates? We use simple URLs like /pray, and we wondered if a longer URL would be required for it to work correctly, or if there's a way around that. What are your thoughts, Josh?
So with the UTM parameters, what you want is to only include those in campaigns. So using that static URL, Google will track how many people visit that page. It'll track where they come from and all of that information. So you don't need to change your URL structure. What this would be is, if you're sending out an email and you want to track for certain who came from that email, within the email content, when you link to that page /pray, you'll add those parameters on. And the user won't see it because it's a text link. And so they'll think they're going to /pray. And when they come back and visit, they would always choose the /pray. But just when they click from that email, those parameters will show up. And then that will allow you to track that on the campaign. So hopefully that's clear. On your website, you don't need to add any parameters. It's only when you're off your website and you're running campaigns that are directing people to your website that you would want to add those parameters.
So Josh, just to confirm, the UTM parameters are more for our internal use, how we track things, but what the audience sees is still the URL that you generate or that you come up with, like a simple one in this question. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, they'll see when they're browsing your website, they would just go, and they click a link in the navigation, it would just show as /pray. When you're sending people directly to the site from an intentional campaign, that's when you'd put the parameters in, and you would put the parameters in on the campaign side. So if you're running a banner ad through BeliefNet or something like that, you would want the parameters on that URL in the banner ad, but you wouldn't put them on your site at all.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question comes from Melissa. Is email considered a direct channel or an outside referral source for website traffic?
When you see direct listed in the source medium, What that means is Google couldn't determine the referral source. So oftentimes, if you're not using the UTM parameter, you will see some people included in that direct channel from email if their email client kind of chops off the referral source. But you'll also see some examples that show up as a referral and say, we'll say gmail.com or mail.yahoo, those types of things, and those will come through as the referral source. And that's actually why it's important to use the UTM codes in your email campaigns, because the UTM codes will group all of those together as an email channel, rather than you having to try to select all of the referral sources that say mail.yahoo, mail.hotmail, those types of things, rather than trying to compile those individually and get at that data. If you use the UTM codes, it will all come through as email.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. We have a couple more questions to get through here, Josh, so I'm going to throw a few more at you and have you give us a quick answer. This one is, where do you go to set up the rule to see big changes?
That would be, I believe it's on the actual report page. So if you're looking at your source medium report, there is, I believe it's at the top left, a section where you can download the report, you can export the report, or that type of content. And one of the options there is to set up an alert. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll make sure that we'll actually cover where to find these in a follow-up blog post and guide. But without looking at the Google Analytics account, that is where I believe it is.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Another question we have for you is, if you convert a UTM into a bit.ly link, will it still function without any issues?
It should, yes.
Okay. And a question from Heather. On ad account linking, what if you have multiple websites in your Google Analytics? They are set up separately, but they are rolled into one Google Ad Grants account. How do you, I just lost it. How do you track conversions on that?
Yes, so you would actually go into each analytics account and connect it to the ads account. Your ads account allows you to have multiple analytics accounts associated with it. So you just import them from each analytics account.
Okay.
You can also push them to, the other way, you can also push them to multiple ads accounts if you need to.
Mm-hmm. A question from Joel. How are you defining conversions? Just clarify that, please.
Yeah, a conversion would be any kind of action that you want the user to take. So in most cases, the most common conversions would be filling out a form, whether that's an email subscribe form, a contact us form, and then it would also be donations. So if somebody makes a donation, you want to track that as a conversion. Google will segment those as transactions. The e-commerce portion in Google Analytics is called a transaction. Any of the other goals that you set up that are not e-commerce related will show up as goals or goal completions.
Okay, and one last question for you, Josh. We have transactions that are done in our app and use Firebase for app analytics. Is it possible to also connect to Google Analytics and track e-commerce transactions that way too? From Doug.
I have less experience with apps. I would say I'm about 85% sure that Firebase has a built-in connection to Google Analytics. So I do believe so, but I have less confidence in that than 100%.
All right, thank you for taking those questions, Josh. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to shoot us an email after this. We'll make sure and include all this great information and the answer to your questions in our follow-up blog post and in our guide that we're creating. And with that, Josh, I'm going to hand it back over to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for all the questions. It's always exciting to see, the interactions here and get to answer your questions specifically. And I hope I helped clarify things. If you do need any additional clarification, go ahead and email me, and I will definitely take care of that for you. I also wanted to let you know that if you're looking at this and you're still feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or you want to dig deeper, we do offer a digital growth plan, which covers 4 different reports. The first one is a full Google Analytics audit. So we will review your Google Analytics account, make sure all of your data is populating properly, make sure you have everything configured that needs to be configured, and also assess any opportunities and risks that we see in the data. Then we'll also do a conversion rate optimization plan, which will be, looking at your funnel, looking at all of your forms that people submit things through, your donations, testing them out and making sure that they adhere to best practices, making recommendations on any usability issues that we see there, as well as a SEO site audit, which covers all of the technical issues on your website that might be hurting your performance within Google. Within the Google rankings. And then lastly, we combine all of that together to give you really a 12-month plan of where your opportunities are and what you should be doing marketing-wise based on the data in the next 12 months to help you reach your goals. So from there, if that is something you're interested in, go ahead and contact us, and we will go ahead and give you a plan to help you reach your marketing goals this year. Thanks again so much for attending. We hope you found this actionable and that you're able to go ahead and take the information you learned today and start seeing results right away. Thank you and have a great day.